In the shadow of Tanner's old fire academy, where the scent of smoke lingers like a ghost, an old man steps off a creaking bus, his faded firefighter's jacket hanging loose on his frail frame. The patch on his sleeve, T.F.D. 1973, catches the morning light. But the young recruits inside the visitor center only see a relic, a joke to be mocked. They laugh loud and sharp, unaware that this quiet stranger carries a story that could silence them all, a story of fire sacrifice and a night that changed a town forever. This is no ordinary tale. It's a firefighter tribute to a hero the world forgot until one moment reignites his legacy. Welcome to the Firefighter Tribute channel. Before we dive deeper into this story, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Where are you tuning in from? Share your thoughts or a story about the firefighters who've touched your life. If these stories resonate with you, hit that subscribe button to support the channel and join us in celebrating the inspiring tales of firefighters everywhere. In the small town of Tanner, Pennsylvania, where the air smells of pine and the sycamore trees cast long shadows over quiet streets, life moves slow. The kind of slow that suits folks who've seen enough years to know time isn't something to chase. At the edge of town, just past the old mill, in a stretch of gravel road, sits a modest clapboard house, its white paint peeling like memories flaking away. This is where Clarence Thompson lives. Folks call him Claire, though most don't call him anything at all. He's 78 now, a wiry man with silver hair and eyes that don't see as sharp as they used to, but still catch the world in ways most miss. His days are simple. Mornings start with coffee, black no sugar sipped from a chipped mug, while an old radio hums Johnny Cash tunes. He tends a small garden out back, coaxing tomatoes and green beans from soil that's as stubborn as he is. But every Saturday without fail, Claire puts on his old fireman's jacket, frayed at the seams, a button missing the canvas faded to a dusty olive. On the sleeve, a patch half torn but proud reads T.F.D. 1973, Tanner Fire Department. Most folks don't notice it. Those who do don't ask. They figure it's just an old man clinging to a relic like a kid with a worn-out teddy bear. Claire walks to the bus stop at 7:15 sharp, his boots scuffing the gravel. The 7:30 bus rattles up, driven by Mrs. Hargrove, who's been behind the wheel since Nixon was in office. "Morning, Claire," she says, her voice warm, but not prying. "Morning," he replies, tipping his head, his voice soft like wind over dry grass. The bus takes him to the Franklin Fire Academy, a sprawling campus of brick buildings and training towers just outside town. It's where young men and women learn to fight fires, to carry ladders, to breathe through smoke. Claire doesn't go inside the training grounds. He heads to the visitor center, a squat building with a glass front and a waiting room that smells of coffee and floor wax. He sits on a wooden bench, the same one every week, his hands folded over the hem of that old jacket. He doesn't speak, doesn't ask for anyone, just sits, watches, waits. The folks at the desk, like Maggie the receptionist, who's been there 20 years, smile at him kindly. They're used to him now, this quiet old man who shows up like clockwork. They don't know why he comes. They don't ask. It's just Claire, part of the furniture, as much a fixture as the flagpole out front. The waiting room is busy on Saturdays. Young recruits, their uniforms crisp and new, strut in and out their boots, polished to a mirror shine. They're full of fire, not the kind they'll learn to put out, but the kind that burns in the chest of youth, all bravado and dreams of heroism. Most don't notice Claire, but some do. And on this particular Saturday, one of them, a kid named Jake Malone, 22 years old with a buzz cut and a smirk that says he knows everything, spots Claire's jacket. Jake's leaning against the wall, talking to a couple of buddies, all of them in their starched uniforms, their badges gleaming. He nudges his friend, a stocky kid named Travis. Check out the old guy, Jake says, his voice loud enough to carry. Looks like he dug that jacket out of a dumpster behind the thrift shop. Travis snickers. The others join in their laughter, sharp like glass breaking. Another recruit, a quiet one named Eddie, shifts uncomfortably but says nothing. Jake's got a way of leading the pack, and Eddie's not one to stand out. Claire doesn't look up. His hands stay folded, his fingers tracing her system, gripping the hem of his jacket. The laughter grows louder, bolder, as Jake steps closer, his boots clicking on the linoleum floor. "Hey, old man," he says, his voice dripping with mock politeness. "You know this place is for firefighters and their families, right? Not for—" He gestures at Claire's jacket, his grin widening. Whatever that is. The waiting room chuckles, ripple around him. Maggie behind the desk frowns but doesn't intervene. She's seen Claire here for years, but she's not one to stir trouble. Claire's eyes cloudy but steady lift slowly to meet Jake's. "I'm fine here," he says, his voice low like the creak of an old door. "Nothing else." Jake laughs, turning to his friends. Fine, the jacket wouldn't pass muster in a soup kitchen. More laughter, sharper now like a blade. Eddie, the quiet recruit, looks away, his face flushed. The room feels smaller, the air heavier, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. Then a new sound cuts through. Boots heavy and deliberate on the linoleum. The laughter dies. Daniel Whitaker, a retired fire chief, 65 years old, tall and silver-haired, steps into the room. His presence is like a storm rolling in quiet, but undeniable. His chest is a map of medals and commendations earned over decades of service. He's a legend at Franklin, a man who's walked through fire and come out the other side. His eyes sharp as a hawk's lock onto Claire's jacket. The room goes still. "Where'd you get that?" he asks, his voice low but firm. Not angry, but something else. Reverence, maybe. Jake blinks, caught off guard. "What, sir?" The patch, Whitaker says, his gaze fixed on the T.F.D. emblem. "Where'd you get it?" Claire raises his head slow, like a man waking from a long dream. His eyes meet Whitaker's. "Tanner Fire Department," he says simply. 1973. Whitaker's breath catches, just for a moment. The room feels like it's holding its breath. "You were T.F.D. Whitaker asks, his voice softer now, almost a whisper. Claire nods just once. Just once. Whitaker steps closer, his eyes never leaving the patch. "Everyone out," he says, not to Claire, but to the recruits. His tone leaves no room for argument. Jake stammers. "But sir," now Whitaker snaps and the room empties like a fire drill, recruits scattering like leaves in the wind. Maggie hesitates, then stays, her hands clasped tight at the desk. Whitaker pulls a chair over and sits across from Claire, his movements careful like he's approaching something sacred. "They told us you didn't make it," he says, his voice low, almost to himself. "The whole T.F.D. crew from 73, they said you were all lost." Claire's lips twitch, not quite a smile. "We weren't lost," he says, his voice like smoke, thin and curling. "We were buried." Whitaker leans forward, his elbows on his knees, his eyes searching Claire's face. "You were there." The black fire. Claire nods again, his fingers brushing the patch on his sleeve. "I was there." Whitaker sits back, his eyes distant like he's seeing something far away. "Operation Black Fire," he says almost to himself. Tanner, 1973. The chemical plant explosion. Worst fire in Pennsylvania history. 12 firefighters gone. 28 workers saved. He looks at Claire, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You were the one, weren't you? The one who got them out." Claire doesn't answer right away. His hands tighten on the jacket, the fabric creasing under his fingers. "I did what I had to," he says finally. "Didn't do enough." Whitaker shakes his head, his jaw tight. "Didn't do enough." You went into a burning chemical plant with no backup, no equipment, just your team. You pulled out 28 people. You were a hero. Claire's eyes dropped to the floor. Heroes don't lose their whole team, he says, his voice barely audible. Whitaker leans closer, his voice fierce but kind. You listened to me, son. You did what no one else could have done. You walked through hell and brought those people out. You think that's nothing? Claire doesn't answer, but his shoulders slump like a weight he's carried for decades is starting to shift. Whitaker stands his chair scraping the floor. He turns to Maggie, who's watching with wide eyes. Get me the records room, he says. I need everything we have on Tanner 73. Maggie nods, scrambling for the phone. Whitaker turns back to Claire. Why didn't you come forward, he asks. Tell someone. Claire's lips curve into a faint, bitter smile. I tried, he says. Nobody listened. After a while, I stopped trying. Whitaker's face hardens, not with anger, but with something deeper. Regret, maybe. Shame. He stands straighter, his voice firm. They'll listen now. The next Saturday, the visitor center is different. No laughter, no smirks. The recruits are there, but they're not lounging or joking. They're standing in a line, their uniforms crisp, their faces nervous. Jake Malone is at the front, holding a bouquet of wildflowers, daisies, and clover picked from the field near the academy. His hands tremble slightly. Next to him, Eddie holds a folded American flag, his eyes fixed on the ground. Claire steps off the bus, his jacket hanging loose on his thin frame. He stops short when he sees them, his eyes narrowing slightly like he's not sure what to make of it. Jake steps forward, clearing his throat. Mr. Thompson, he says, his voice shaking just a bit. We didn't know. About you. About what you did. He swallows hard, his face red. We're sorry. For the way we acted. For everything. Claire looks at him, then at the others, their faces a mix of guilt and respect. He nods slowly, his expression unreadable. It's all right, son, he says. You didn't know. Jake shakes his head, his voice stronger now. That's no excuse, sir. We should have known better. Should have shown respect. Eddie steps forward, holding out the flag. This is for you, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. From all of us. Claire takes the flag, his fingers brushing the fabric like it's something fragile. Thank you, he says, his voice steady but soft. The recruits step back and Jake gestures to the wall behind them. Claire turns and his breath catches. A framed photograph hangs there. A young man in a fireman's uniform, his face determined, his eyes bright. The plaque beneath it reads, Clarence Thompson, Hero of the Black Fire Tanner Fire Department, 1973. Service without glory, valor beyond measure. Claire stares at the photo, his hand tightening on the flag. He doesn't speak, but his eyes glisten, just for a moment. Whitaker steps forward from the back of the room, his face softer now, almost gentle. We found the records, he says. Your name was there, buried in the archives. We're making it right now. Claire nods, his throat working. Ain't much for plaques, he says, but his voice cracks just enough to betray him. Thank you. The recruits file out quiet, now their heads bowed. Maggie comes around the desk, her eyes red. I had no idea, Claire, she says. All these years and I didn't know. Claire smiles, a real one, this time small but warm. You were always kind, Maggie, he says. That's enough. She hugs him quick and fierce, then steps back, wiping her eyes. Claire sits on his usual bench, the flag in his lap, the flowers beside him. Whitaker sits next to him, silent for a long moment. Why do you come here? Whitaker asks finally. Every week, like clockwork. Claire looks out the window at the training towers in the distance. To remember, he says. My team. They didn't make it out. I did. Doesn't feel right sometimes. Whitaker nods, his eyes distant. I get that, he says. But you're here. You're carrying them with you. That's what heroes do. The sun sets over Tanner, painting the sky golden red. Claire rides the bus home, the flag and flowers in his lap. When he gets home, he sets the flag on his kitchen table next to his old radio. He walks out to his garden, the evening air cool against his skin. The tomatoes are coming in nice, their leaves green and heavy. He sits on an old lawn chair, the radio playing softly, Merle Haggard this time. He looks at the flowers, the flag, the patch on his sleeve. For the first time in years, he feels lighter, like a weight's been lifted, not all the way, but enough. The story of Clarence Thompson isn't just about one man. It's about all the heroes who walk among us, quiet, unnoticed, their stories, stitched into old jackets and faded scars. It's about the courage to keep going, even when the world forgets. If this story moves, you don't let it end here. Share it. Tell someone. Let the silent giants be seen. Be the reason someone still believes in honor, humility, and quiet courage.